Hi everyone and welcome to the Power 365 show. I'm really looking forward to interviewing today's guest, Ed Grant. Ed comes from the background of private equity and financial services and went on to co-found Solgari, an omni-channel cloud communication service. In fact, they're saying it's all channel. Amazing solution they have, but I really want to drill into their ISV journey. We'll explore their role as an ISV within Dynamics 365, what's next for the industry, and how you can stay ahead of many of the curveballs. Full show notes can be found at nz365guide.com/83. Now let's get on with the show. Hi Ed, welcome to the Power 365 show.
Hi Mark, thanks very much for inviting me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's good meeting you up in Scotland at that recent Dynamics 365 Saturdays. It wasn't the first time I met you, obviously. One of the partner conferences, I had the chance to sit down and learn about Solgari. Can you just tell us just briefly about Solgari and how that company came about?
Yes, indeed. We started Solgari 5 years ago, and we had a vision that communications would be delivered as a fully integrated solution across all channels. So voice, video, SMS, chat, even third-party social media, chat, etc. And we saw that the world of communications was going this way, as indeed is technology in general. And so we launched the company. Our CTO, Vance Harris, comes from a communications background, and he had tremendous vision about how we could deliver a fully integrated solution across all the channels, all the functionality, even down to the carrier level. So we could deliver all this as a per user per month SaaS solution anywhere in the world. And so we off we went, and we raised plenty of outside capital to build the business, because you need capital to build these companies. And we focused hard on route to market, product first, then route to market. And product ended up as us delivering what we consider to be an all-channel solution. So it's even beyond omni-channel in that it delivers all the channels. And in terms of our route to market, Mark, we focus really hard on Microsoft, because we have a very complementary solution to what Microsoft are doing, in particular with Dynamics 365. So we have a powerful integration with Dynamics 365 using channel integration framework, which we can talk about. And that puts us in the middle of the Dynamics ecosystem around partners and customers that are required to offer to their own customers all channel communication capability.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll come back to Solgari in a bit more detail shortly. Just give me some background where you've come. You seem to you had a very international career, France, Ireland as well. You studied in Germany. Can you tell us a bit about your story, about your journey so far?
Sure. My background actually is corporate finance. I'm not from a technology background at all. So we're not like you guys in New Zealand, Mark, where we're very outward looking, small country. So very outward looking people, Irish people in general. So yeah, I went and learned German. I have a German degree, business and German degree. So I did a year Erasmus in Germany. And then I joined Citi, the American corporate investment bank, and I worked in tech, media and telecoms for 10 years. Started in London, then I went to Dublin, where there was a lot of tax-based work going on that I worked on for a few years. And then I went to France to work on all the major French TMT businesses, of which there's some incredible companies in the French market. And so I did that for 10 years in Citi. That was a brilliant experience. I was doing mainly balance sheet, M&A type work, bonds, acquisitions. And I reached a point where Citi is a fantastic company, but yet you're a very small cog in a massive wheel. Okay, so I had ambitions to eventually launch my own business, but to get into smaller type companies, private equity to start with. And I joined a small private equity firm that was based out of Dublin, but focused very much on international technology opportunities. And that's what led me into the world of software as a service. And that particular business made some SaaS investments, and from there I built good contacts with, for example, the Irish government VC company, which is called Enterprise Ireland, which is a fantastic outfit. And Enterprise Ireland then introduced me to John Colgan, my colleague and our CEO at Solgari. And John and Vance were already down the road thinking about SaaS applications and had a great track record in delivering technology products. And from there, we actually started Solgari 5 years ago. So that's a bit of background to where I came from. So it was driven by ambition to do my own thing, and then I met up with two very powerful and very clever entrepreneurs, and we
Hmm.
decided to launch this together.
So there's three of you that kind of run the direction of the company.
Absolutely. So John
Hmm.
Colgan is CEO, and John is, John is an entrepreneur with a big track record, and he sold companies to level three in the US. He sold companies in the UK to, for example, to the Tote. So John is, he's got great capability and vision and know-how in terms of building businesses. And then Vance Van Harris is CTO, and Vance is the driving force behind our product. So he's the technical brains behind the integration I described earlier, Mark, across all the channels, functionality, and carrier capability. So that's where Vance drives the whole product side of the business, and then I bring a huge commercial emphasis to the company, all around the corporate side, the funding side, route to market, working with key partners globally. So the three of us are very complementary, and obviously we've built a very good team around ourselves as well. It's not just the three of us. I mean, the team's as important as we are. So we've built a very good team across. A great guy in Asia Pacific, Paul Mulvena, head of sales for Europe, is based in London. Tamara Phelan, and we're in the process of hiring a head of sales for North America as well.
Wow, wow. So if I just break down those three roles, your CTO Vance is kind of product focused, if you like, the technology development. Yourself is marketing, sales, channels to market. What did you say, John's? What would he sit under as his key value he brings there?
Well, John is very much on the strategic side. So John,
Strategy.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, very much so. So John would have considered in depth, Vance's vision of where communications in general was going, and as a team led by John, we would have thought long and hard as to where that would have created demand for particular type of communication solutions, and then how do we access that demand? So that's hugely what John does. Also, John and I deal very closely with all our investors, including institutional investors and private technology investors in a few different markets. We have investors from US, UK, Australia, Ireland. So we do plenty of interaction with them, and a lot of them bring value to the business as well. So, a fast-growing company, Mark, we're multifaceted in the way we do it, but there are clear segregations between what the three of us do, and then we bring it all
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, sounds like a dream team. As in, I love that breakdown there. Three real key depth and of experience of skills, allowing you to drive your vision forward. That's fantastic. When you're not working, what spins your wheels when you're having relaxing time or doing things other than focusing on the company?
Young family, Mark, so that takes up plenty of time. Two young boys, two wrecking balls,
I
and they're now playing. Well, the first boy's playing rugby now, so
was going to
that's a
say,
big.
does he love his rugby? Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that's the first thing he's doing at weekends, and he's also horse riding as well. So that's all going on. That's all going on. So we're also then. I'm a big rugby fan. You and I spoke about that previously. So Ireland have a very good team at the moment. So love all that. And I'm also a golfer as well. Quite wild, but I hit the ball well, but not necessarily to the right place. But
Yeah, yeah.
I do enjoy it. So plenty going on. Plenty of sports. Plenty of home life, and so very enjoyable.
Very good, very good. Tell me, what have been the key highlights of your career thus far? Not necessarily just in Solgari, but across your career. What are kind of the standout moments that you draw a lot of pleasure from remembering them?
Sure. When I was in City, so in the American Bank, I had I rose to a very high role very quickly, and I worked on some tremendously interesting things. So, for example, I would have worked on after the dot-com bust, which was 2001, or 2000 into 2001, when obviously the Nasdaq in particular fell like a stone, and it cut off funding to nearly all startups, and a lot of the public companies that were caught up in the overvaluation of many of those companies at the time were struggling. So I would have worked on massive restructuring projects, for example, on companies like France Telecom and Vivendi Universal, and it was absolutely brilliant time. These were big, powerful companies that needed to restructure. So would have been working with the CEOs, the CFOs of those companies over 3 or 4 years. And I was a young guy at the time. I was late 20s. So would have done a lot of that, and that was a brilliant experience for me. And that kind of thing gives you a lot of confidence as well, and shows you how to deal with certain types of people, very senior people, very hard charging people. So that was a brilliant highlight for me. But then after that, I get to be honest with you, into the financial crash from 2008 onwards, there were different type of challenges. They were much harder experiences, some investments that mightn't have gone the right way, driven by things that might have been outside our control. So you learn from the ups and you learn from the downs. So you try to bring all that together, Mark, and use that experience
Yeah.
to help what we're doing now.
Very good, very good. So, can you tell me about your first year at Solgari? Kind of like, what did you execute on to really set your company on the right footing moving forward? Even like, tell us a bit about how you came up with the concept that you're going to go into this all channel type area of the market, knowing where SaaS was going. What was your thinking, at that point of Nexus, if you like?
Well, here's the thing. When we started out, we knew that our vision was ahead of where the market is. And that's not necessarily a good thing to do, right? Nevertheless, we were very clear on the size of the opportunity. So when we started out, we literally started doing business with smaller companies requiring one channel. So voice, typically voice, right? And there might have been one, two, three locations. So that is a much more commoditized play. But you have to start somewhere. And we were building up in and watching the market very carefully, Mark, as to when is the market going to start adopting the requirement to offer what the market knows is omni-channel today. When our B2C, for example, financial services, or B2C e-commerce and retail, going to start presenting omni-channel to their customers, and that started really happening very rapidly over the last 2 years. So we all along we were building the product. So Vance has always had this technology. He's had it in use in the U.S. government and so on for a long period of time, and putting the product on top, or using the technology to produce the product that provides all the channels and modular as well, so customers can pick and choose what they need. So the get-go was mainly voice, and then you see video, and then SMS was always a player. And now chat is just enormous, whether it's chat off a website or it's WhatsApp or WeChat or Facebook Messenger. Chat is now enormous. And now it's going on then into social media and so on. So we built it up carefully in the full expectation that the market would move to a requirement to all channel. And that now is all the rage. So to give you an idea of where there's a metric in our business that shows exactly what the market is doing, and that is the average revenue per user per month. So it moved from a starting point at 25 to, I'll speak in euro terms, but 25 to 30 euros per user per month, and now it's 3 times that.
So that leads to some other questions for me then, is that when you say voice, just explain to me what you mean by voice. Are we talking about something that competes with Skype for Business? Are we talking about a much more intelligent layer where, let's say, you're doing voice analysis, whether it be voice fingerprinting? I don't know if there's another term for that. Can you tell me a bit about the sophistication around what you're doing in just that voice space?
So voice is telephony. So it's all the telephony capability delivered as a cloud solution. So the general concept in the market is called PBX. That's what the market uses now. PBX is a really old term, and so it's voice with telephony, and we would have a lot of capability in that. So you can, for example, on the security side, you can encrypt voice end to end on our platform. On the compliance side, you can record and archive in a very secure military-grade environment, and that applies to all our communication channels. So if you SMS is the same, chat is the same, video is the same. So you can record and archive, and then if it is voice, Mark, so that whether that be within a call or within a video meeting, we also have very deep analytics tools for voice. So you can search, or you can word and phrase search, for example, in recordings using voice recognition. So that's for example, that is the voice channel with an example of some of the functionality we provide in the voice channel. Equally, there's a lot of functionality that applies because remember it is integrated, so the functionality applies to across all the channels. So you can queue if you're talking about the contact center capability, you can queue voice traffic, you can queue chat, you can queue SMS, etc. Right? So any heavy inbound communication requirements, you can queue across all channels, and then an agent can handle all three channels or more channels if they wish. So that's anyway. In terms of your voice question, it's we have that's what we do in the voice side.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And you mentioned there military grade, so you're talking about federal agencies in the US, for example, have no problem adopting this because the security level is that kind of robust. Is that right?
Exactly. So Vance comes from that background. So the starting point for us is compliance and security. So we didn't build a web app and build our way back in. So we started from the core, and it's compliance and security. And yes, Vance has multiple government contracts around voice analytics tracking, for example, and certainly we have a major advantage there when it comes to compliance and security. So that's a key reason why we do very well in the financial services and fintech space. So if you do need to record communications, whether it's voice or on the other channels, whether it's for regulatory reasons and or data reasons. So, for example, in retail or in e-commerce, they mightn't have a regulatory requirement to record communications, but there's fantastic data in those customer communications, so they do want to record it, and that then opens them up, for example, in Europe to GDPR because they've got consumer data recorded. So on our platform, all of that is recorded at military grade encryption, so 1024-bit encryption at rest and in transit. So in transit means if an administrator is taking out recordings, it's transported at that level of encryption. So it's a highly secure platform from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So why did you choose Microsoft as kind of being your key play in that space? You had the choices of IBM, you had the choice of Salesforce, Google, all these other potential large vendors you could have engaged with and gone to market with, Salesforce as well, actually. So why did you become focused on the Microsoft opportunity with your technology?
Well, this would have started off, Vance would have driven and pointed us commercially to work with Microsoft, and his thinking about it was started off with we actually use a lot of .NET ourselves in the platform, so we are a Microsoft house ourselves. So that then allows us to do many different things in terms of the integration, and moving on from that, then Microsoft have allowed us to do some fantastic things with the integration as well, particularly around challenge creation framework. But so that was from a technical perspective, there was a good reason. But probably from a commercial perspective, equally as important was Vance was able to give us guidance that he felt that our solution was going to be very complementary to where Microsoft were bringing their own communication tools, namely Skype for Business, and now we're into Teams, and that vision and analysis has proved to be very accurate. So we, as a third-party ISV, bring lots of capability that you don't find in Sky for Business or in Teams, particularly around the ability to offer all the outside channels to the world. I talked about some of the compliance and security aspect of it. So, and also we're a carrier as well. So we have the full PSTN layer,
Wow.
which is important. So
Is
that
that
means that
global? Is that global?
yeah, yes, absolutely, it's
Okay.
global. So we're a licensed carrier in Europe, and we
Mhm.
partner with global partners such as Verizon, and it allows us then to not only offer that integrated software service I was describing to you across all the channels, we can then carry the voice and messaging traffic of our customers and provide them local numbers anywhere in the world. One we did recently was Guatemala. Fintech business in Guatemala, got them local numbers to allow inbound calls there. We're doing the Middle East as well. So, some of the Middle Eastern countries are difficult in terms of offering voice locally or offering numbers locally, for example, on the carrier side. But we know how to address these issues, and it's just technical things on the carrier side. So it does bring, while we consider, Mark, the carrier layer to be pure commodity. Carrying voice and messaging is just commodity.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you put it together with the software application, it produces a brilliant result because it's a full end-to-end solution to the cloud for our customers.
yeah. Yeah, amazing, amazing. So another thing I want to unpack there is the whole chat layer. I've got friends that work in Twilio, and they're telling me the big push that's coming is going to be in the area of Apple are going to open up or invest a lot more in the business story around their messenger app, and therefore how companies can integrate at that layer. We've just seen WhatsApp recently start to open up their APIs as a potential channel. Messenger on Facebook have been doing it for a while. Then there's the others like WeChat, the ones that are more Asia focused. How are you tackling those type of third party solutions, and does your all channel solution encompass those?
Yes, absolutely. So this is really really important, and what your friends are saying to you is really interesting. So our solution is totally open. So in if you look at the financial services world, and the use of WhatsApp, for example, is a major issue because people just use what they want to use, and that's particularly true of millennials as well, of course, which is a big driver of what we do in terms of presenting all the channels. So, but in the financial services, for example, the use of WhatsApp is widespread, and the problems that it creates is that the companies don't know what exactly their staff might be discussing, or even trading, or telling customers on WhatsApp, for example, and how do they retain those communications? So yes, we address all of that, and what we do is we essentially can land third-party chat, whether it be WhatsApp, as you said, is just opening up the API. Facebook Messenger is totally open, so you can land Facebook Messenger chat on a Solgari endpoint. So you look at Microsoft, the endpoint that we've created with Microsoft inside the browser in Dynamics 365. Our customers can land Facebook Messenger chat on that endpoint. Same for WhatsApp, and they can then reply to it, from a single endpoint. But the beauty of it is, so now you've got another channel sitting there. But if you need that communications data, we can record and archive it. You'll find it in our cloud.
Amazing, amazing. That's brilliant. I mean, it's people are working so different these days, and sometimes the last thing you want to do is pick up a phone and call the company you want to engage with. But chat, I just find you can chat and you're going to get a ping when they come back to you, so you can carry on and do something else. Where if you're stuck on a call, whether it's hold music, etc., and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm reflective of the generations that are coming through now. They haven't got time for that. They'd much rather use a chat channel, and when the other party comes back, engage that way. And so I can see the whole need to put that compliance layer then around it, particularly in financial sector or government sector, or really any that are concerned about how they're storing customer data.
Yeah, exactly. So we offer our own chat solution as well, which is for example, so internal chat, or you can embed it on the website, which is using WebRTC. So it can be what's called out of dialogue chat is just a simple chat to an endpoint, and in dialogue chat is where, for example, you may have started a interaction off a website. Let's say it's a financial services business selling insurance, and they offer the ability to call us now. So you click a button, WebRTC call, and you can also chat on that dialogue as well. So you might want to, like, the agent might want to present something in the chat box, around what the customer is discussing, or even use AI to present something that they're discussing in the chat box. So we have all that chat capability ourselves. But of course, as we're discussing here, Mark, the market is using lots of different chat solutions. So it's very important that we can handle those third party channels. And to us, it's just another channel. We just landed on an endpoint, and as I said, then that gives us access to the data, which we can record and archive as part of a customer interaction across a number of different channels.
Yeah. So tell me, have you done anything in the Asia market around Weibo, and specifically the other one there would be WeChat?
No, we haven't yet. We're actually working on a couple of transactions in China at the moment, and there's a bit of learning by doing, because you'll be aware there's lots of restrictions in the Chinese market. Yeah, we're looking at it at the moment, and yeah, obviously, you're well aware coming from New Zealand, how prevalent WeChat is in particular in Asia. So yeah, we're looking at it. It's obviously it's much more closed, but it's something that we are looking at, and we're very much actually, to give you an idea how we build the business, we're very much customer led. So we have a couple of fintech businesses in China that we're working with at the moment, and the WeChat requirement is there. So there's a few things we're working through with them first in terms of delivering the solution locally, and we'll get to that. But everything is possible. So yeah, it's something very much on our agenda and on our roadmap.
Yeah, I did quite a bit of work in Hong Kong for a period of a couple of years, and probably one of the biggest requests we're getting, we're not interested in all the, if you like, US or European based channels, but WeChat and Weibo are two big, like, so I researched the APIs and whatnot that we had to get into, but they've got a, as you say, it's locked down, as in from a government control perspective, but also they have their the ability to transact on those platforms running very smoothly as well. So in some ways, they're way more advanced in perhaps some of the other, European slash US type platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, that's how they communicate.
Yeah, yeah.
As you know, no one answers email in Asia.
No, no, no,
It's
no,
only
no, no.
chat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally, totally.
yeah.
So let's talk a bit more about the how the evolution of your Microsoft partner. So you obviously you chose it from a technology point of view that you're going to use it. What about go to markets, etc., that involve Microsoft? How did you a couple of things? How did you segment your market? How has Microsoft played a part in that journey of either engaging with Microsoft partners and or customers?
Yes. So what we decided to do first, having got some advice from Microsoft directly, some senior people on the Dynamics 365 sales side, we focused on some key partners to help us both in terms of integration of our solution with Dynamics 365 and in terms of positioning. And we've worked with a number of partners. I'd mention Hitachi Solutions in London, who you know well. So
Yep, yep.
we would have worked closely with Kyle Hill and Chris
Mm-hmm.
Huntingford on certainly on their team understanding our solution and how it could work with Microsoft. So they gave us some fantastic technical and strategic advice. So they were important. And then we would have spread out to partners in Australia. So we're working closely with Oakton at the moment, and Germany with On Demand for You, and a number of others as well. So trying to understand different layers of the Dynamics 365 market, so from the enterprise layer down to the SMB type of customers, and which partners are more relevant. And all the partners is interesting because we find a lot of the partners, we don't find many partners are the same. Well, the partners we want to deal with are not necessarily resellers. They're much more system integrators, they're solution creators, and so on. So none of them really look the same to us, which is interesting. So we had to profile them and so on. But what we did first was, so we created a very clever integration between our platform and Dynamics 365, and essentially from our all channel software phone, you just put in a parameter, whether it's identify the SMS number, identify the call number, lots of different parameters, and we just fire URL into Dynamics, and if the case is in Dynamics, it'll pop open, and click to dial and outbound SMS, all that kind of things were there, and we were moving forward with that solution. So that worked with 365. It also works with on-premise. We're moving forward for that solution, but then Microsoft gave us some indications about channel integration framework was something that they were working on, and once they had viewed our solution and our integration with Dynamics 365, the R&D team within Dynamics 365 creating channel integration framework asked us to move rapidly to basically put our solution inside CIF, which essentially allowed our solution to be made available inside the browser. It's very, very seamless. It's not all the company needs to do is access CIF, and then we are an ISV available within CIF, and then literally a user can have single sign on, and there's your all channel communications. Now, of course, there are other ISVs in there as well. So you mentioned Twilio earlier on. So Twilio have a solution there as well. But we believe we have something very, very unique in that. But to be honest with you, Mark, Microsoft have massively facilitated our entry into Dynamics 365 through channel integration framework. So, for example, it removes the total need for us to update our integration because channel integration framework does it automatically as Dynamics moves on to onto the next releases. So that's brilliant. It's absolutely seamless. It's bulletproof, easy to use. All you need to do is press a button, and there's your channels. And so that's what Microsoft have facilitated. And they facilitated it because they're looking, the Microsoft ISV strategy. I should have mentioned this as well. Actually, we were talking about Microsoft. So, the Microsoft ISV strategy, in our opinion, is way beyond Salesforce. So, it's much.
Interesting.
Yeah, much more encompassing, and there's a clear support and go-to-market tools that they'll give you out of the box depending on what kind of ISV you are. So in our case, we're a trial version on Dynamics 365. So there's a laundry list of things that they're providing us around PR, around case studies, PDM, etc. So as long as you know as an ISV how to work with Microsoft on these tools and these collaborations, there really is a wide open road to work with the right partners, with the right customers, and indeed with the right customers that have developed solutions on Dynamics 365 and are looking to continue to expand. And of course, in our areas, it's about the communications area. But of course, there's ISVs doing lots of different things around Dynamics 365. So Microsoft have played a massive role, and this is for us has unfolded very, very rapidly. So we saw Channel Integration Framework, for example, the first time in November.
Wow. So you have moved quickly then.
Oh, very rapidly, because as soon as we saw it, we said, "Wow, we couldn't have thought it up any better ourselves." And so we move rapidly with Ashu and the team in the R&D team in CIF, and here we are now, and we are now as a result of that as well. We've joined up with the communities team, and we're a global sponsor and partner for 365 Saturday. Obviously, I met you in Glasgow as one of the shows we're at. We're in Tampa last week. We're in Munich this weekend. You're presenting not just about ourselves. We're talking about the market and the market demand for what we're doing and why we're doing it, and we're trying to help partners. And of course, they're giving us feedback and ideas. So it's a really, really vibrant community, Mark, and Microsoft are playing a massive role in that. So we're delighted to be involved.
Excellent. Okay, so I've got some stuff to unpack there that you've covered, which I think is fantastic. So there'll be a bunch of people listening to this that are in that ISV space, and they might be in various geographies, the Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, all over the place. And as I know a lot of them have this question, like, who do I engage with at Microsoft? Now, let me just break that down for you a bit, because, in the local country that they're in, they'll have the Microsoft subsidiary. And a lot of people think, by engaging with their subsidiary, these people have influence over software direction, etc. And really, they don't. In my experience, they are the sales arm, subsidiaries around the world of the Microsoft technology. At the end of the day, head offices in Redmond, they have various development centers around the world. But if you want to move the dial on what you're talking about, you engage at a Redmond level. Is that right?
I'll start by saying we don't know all the answers.
Yeah. No, I just want your journey.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But I think you're on the right track. So we focused on, first and foremost, we focused on the AppSource and the Azure Marketplace teams.
Okay.
And we got to understand, and in the US, so we got to understand their vision about the markets, and I think their vision about the markets is rapidly it's a moving feast, if you put it that way, and we're trying to stay on top of that. So we did that first. We understood then what was required for us to position ourselves in the right way. The AppSource marketplace is the one that's relevant to us. So we took some time to consider that. We got to understand where AppSource may be successful and where it might be less successful, and that was very much we got partner advice on that, and so we thought all that through, and very much driven by partner advice on how to position ourselves, both in AppSource and in general as an ISV.
What do you mean by partner advice?
So for example, where are the Microsoft teams focus on in terms of adding on ISV solutions when they're selling, for example,
Mm-hmm.
Dynamics 365. So
Yep. Yep.
we would have got insight into that, and
Mm-hmm.
that's an area we're only getting into now, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with the Microsoft teams that, for example, let's say are in the financial services space, which would be very interesting to us. So we got a lot of views on that, and then of course we gauge very heavily with the, as I said, the AppSource team in terms of our positioning, and now we're moving on into looking at what their plans are for AppSource. Are they going to, is Microsoft, for example, going to, maybe look at, all the ISVs and AppSource and who's adding what value or less value, for example, and make sure that we fit in as as a very high profile global ISV that's adding massive value, and and reaching the right people within Microsoft on that, which is easier said than done, of course, right? We all know
Yes.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but look, we have a good view of what's happening, and we're working our way through it. So that's one side of it. But the other side of it was we focused really hard on, getting to the right partners, and that's a lot of that is word of mouth, Mark, and also, the Dynamics 365 or the 365 Saturday Roadshow or the global event is fantastic to getting to the right partners or being advised on who the right partners are. So, these are the partners that we can see that are creating really great solutions on Dynamics 365, and the customer base then might be very relevant to the solution that we have, and nothing stops us just going and doing that business and making those partnerships work right now. So we're doing that, but of course we're also thinking about how can we drive lots of inbound direct business to ourselves from AppSource or whether it be from Microsoft, so we can actually help our partners as well with business that we can bring to the table. So that this is all moving very rapidly, and as I said, Jared, at the start, we don't have all the answers, but we certainly have a good view of what's happening, and how we can maximize it for us to add value, which clearly helps our partners and it helps us as well.
Yeah. So just on the AppSource front, there are you. In what nature are you listed up there? So, you've got the options to make an inquiry, to access a test drive demo, or install a solution directly in and start, having a play with it. What have you found is working for you at the moment?
Yes, we're just about to launch a trial version for Dynamics for customer experience, and literally anyone that goes onto the trial version can, it'll just go live immediately on a trial version with a user profile on Solgari, and it's seamless. So, and the app source, app source is that anyone that requests a trial can get a 2 week trial, which is fine by us. So, which is great. So the more people on trials, and of course, if you are an app source trial user, you are a Microsoft customer or you're a Microsoft partner. So more than likely you really are looking for a solution. So yeah, it's the experience of AppSource is very important. There's a couple of things of interest in it. You need to be careful of a few things. So you can actually leave, anyone can leave a review, and the review stays there. So whether you get a negative review for, because you deserve it,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
or otherwise,
Yeah.
you just need to make sure that you run it properly.
Yeah. And
And
so my understanding is if someone signs up for a test drive and so they get that 2 week, in your case, scenario, they then have the ability to review it even though they haven't purchased it, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so have you had some issues?
No, not yet, but you have to be careful. So,
Yeah.
so that that makes us think, Mark, very, very hard about that 2 week period, and not to drop any balls, to provide automated help tools and also real life sales intervention because depending on the size of the company, if it's a smaller SMB to mid-size, a 2 week trial could be halfway to a deal. A larger company is unlikely to be the case, okay? Because if you know the reasons why. So you need to have really good automated and sales process in place to ensure that 2 week interaction goes really smoothly.
Yeah. So can you kind of walk us through what you do around a that moving 2 week window for the individual? Do you have kind of like, right, you're going to get in some, in person or at least a phone call? Is there kind of that? Are you adding the human touch, or is it just fully a digital experience for them?
It's both. So always on the move, Mark. By the way, as you know, it's we're always trying to improve it, but it starts with a human touch because sales do want to understand are there immediate requirements that the trialists may have, or is it more to understand the market? So, either way, of course, we're facilitating them. So you certainly there's a human touch immediately, and from there, there's automated updates that include, for example, help tools or requesting, are there any issues? Is there anything you'd like to discuss with us? So to encourage interaction all the way. So you got 2 to 3 human touch points across the 2 weeks, and you've got multiple interactions to try and either help or encourage the user to come forward with, positives or negatives, as the case may be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. There's as you see, we're almost through on our time, and yet there's still so much to cover. I just want to drill into a couple of things around where you see the future is going, particularly around the use of AI. Now, when I think of AI and I think of what you're doing as a company, you're dealing with voice, you're dealing with images via maybe video, if it's a moving image, if you like, and you're dealing with text. So three different areas that, if we run a machine learning over that, and depending on the size of the data sets, there's a potential for a lot of learning around potential emotional nuances of a conversation, and then how you could trigger actions to come off that. There are, there'll be many different future case scenarios that you could explore from an AI perspective. What are you thinking around that area, and where do you see things going?
Sure. So shall I say, Vance, our CTO, is way down the road on this. So we are, for example, again, when we go back to our partnership with Microsoft, so our Vance and the team are very much looking at and talking to Microsoft and around the AI side and some of the AI tools that we could potentially use. However, we're already creating our own AI. So on customer journeys on our solution, there's lots of AI potential. So I'll give you some examples on the voice side. If a, let's say, a retail customer comes in and retail is an area where there's lots of demand for what we do. So if a retail customer comes in on a website to buy something, and they do want to interact with the vendor, typically they'll use chat. So we then have the ability then for them just to speak the chat that they want to put in, so they don't have to type anything in. So we got
Oh,
that
fantastic.
yeah,
Yep.
so we got that capability. But let's
Mm-hmm.
say then as well that they decide that they need to discuss with an agent, so they can elevate that chat to voice. Just click a button. So now you've got a voice conversation going on. So within the voice, we can use speech recognition to to identify the key requirement of the customer or the prospect, and present images of that, or suggested images of what they're looking for, back into the chat box.
Wow,
And
excellent.
that is the type of, it's, to answer your, Mark, it's sauce within the journey. But you're as per your question, you're very familiar about how AI is, very important in terms of the Microsoft Cloud story as well. So there's some examples of where we see, and there's machine learning in there, of course. So we've got a lot of AI potential within our platform, and we're starting to bring some of it out. Even other areas as well, from, if not just for example from the customer side, even from the agent side, we can see some potential. In fact, more than potential, we're going to do it. So we're going to move our endpoints will just be a single web-based endpoint. So whether you're on a laptop just using what would have been a software phone, or let's say you're in the browser in Dynamics, we're going to go to a position where the channels that you're presented are the channels you always use. And then if you want to get other channels, you just click a button and bring the other channels into place. So we're going to bring some AI into that side of it as well. And it just, again, it makes it, a much quicker, seamless experience for on the agent side as well. So there's lots of things we can do. And I'm sure Vance could say a lot more than me on this, Mark. And I know he's discussing it with the Microsoft guys, actually, I think later this month in Amsterdam. Or is it, yeah, later this month, that's right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it is.
yeah, at the user experience event.
Yep.
So there's lots going on the AI side. So yeah, to us it's extremely important. It'll bring much more. It'll bring some really clever, nuances into the customer journeys that are running on our channels,
Yeah.
as I described.
Yeah. Listen, final question before we get on to some quick fire. What three items of advice would you give to somebody considering becoming an ISV with Microsoft?
Yeah, number one, I would say absolutely imperative is to see what your value add is to whichever part of the Microsoft cloud stack that you're complementing or integrating work or building on. So what's the value add? And as well as the value add in terms of the solution outcome, what do the economics look like? So, for example, what would a Microsoft customer, be paying for whatever they're paying within the cloud stack plus your solution? And what does that look like from an end customer perspective? So that is the number one thing I would say. Number two then is, I would say, route to market. So is your solution, would the partner community, or within the partner community, are the partners that would see a lot of value in bringing your solution to their existing Microsoft customers, or is it more a direct sell, or is it both? And then how do you execute on that? And then the third thing I'd say is, as well, is to interact with Microsoft to make the team, and this goes back to the original question that you and I were discussing, is can you bring the ISV solution to the attention of Microsoft? Because if Microsoft can see a lot of value in your ISV solution, there's only upside to that. You'll move beyond the laundry list of really powerful things that they'll give you to maybe co-selling, and then into partner marketing support, all kinds of different things. So I think those three things, and probably in that order, Mark, would be the three things I'd advise on.
Yeah, nice. I think that's tremendously valuable to the various ISVs that'll be listening to this. So thanks for that. Let's get on to some quick fire questions. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Keep it simple.
Yeah, KISS.
Definitely. Yeah, keep it simple. I mean, if your story is too complicated and your pricing is too complicated, something's missing. It needs to be, and that's something that we've had to think long and hard about, because we've had a very powerful solution, but you need to present it very simply, and we've arrived at that point. So it has to be a simple story. The person, the user that's using your service, needs to have an understanding and able to see what you do very simply.
Yeah, excellent. What's one thing on your bucket list?
Oh, let me think. How about the World Cup final in Japan? Well, no, that's that. We need a few things to happen for that, Mark. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's for real, right?
Yeah, I'd like to do. I'd like to play golf on all the top 10 courses in the US, because they're brilliant courses. So I haven't done that before. I'd like to do that.
What's the one productivity tool you use every day?
Well, Dynamics 365 is becoming a really, really important part of what we do as well. So we're learning more. I mean, it's a very rich, deep platform with lots of different modules. So we're getting much more up to speed ourselves in terms of using it ourselves, and that's also important in terms of some idea generation and particular demos that we might want to do with our partners. So yeah, we use that. We everything that we do in the business is all cloud based. We don't use anything on premise. So even from, for example, running the business on the corporate side, Xero, good New Zealand business there. So Xero on the accounting.
Is that right? You're using Xero?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. So Xero,
Fantastic.
and Yeah, and so that's an excellent tool, and again,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's simple to use as well,
Yep.
and everything we do in cloud. So like even the business, or financial, the corporate side, everything is in the cloud, and OneDrive, etc. So we just focus on practicing what we preach.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Tell me, who do you recommend as a guest? Keeping in mind that the audience is really ISVs out there. Do you have any recommendations for a future guest for the show?
I would. Do you know Steve Mordew in the US?
Yeah, I know him well.
Okay, well, Steve, I found very interesting when I met him last week. He was great. He gave us some very good insights and potential insights into new things. So he could be good. Um, I'm just trying to think on. Is there anyone
What
else?
What about anyone else on your team? You talked about,
Oh, on our team, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Vance and
Vance could be a great guy to bring on
yeah,
board, and he could. Vance Mark could give you lots of really interesting things on AI and his vision around that. So I've given you the headline vision of
yeah,
integration across channels and functionality and carrier. Vance would be way beyond where I am in terms of the technology vision of where we go next. And as we discussed, AI is a major part of that.
hmm
So yeah, I'd say Vance would be more than happy to join you.
yeah. What about John around the strategy side? Because I think
Yeah,
these are very unique parts of any ISV business, and you get totally different perspectives. So
yeah. No, John is very he's a very fluent talker and very
mhm,
clear thinker, and I'm sure he'd be delighted to join you as well.
awesome.
Yeah.
Ed, it's been great to have you on the show. There's so much more I'd love to discuss. As you see, we didn't even reach half the questions, not even probably maybe a quarter of them only. But before you go, if people want to reach out to you online, what's the best way they can contact you?
We're big on LinkedIn, so Ed Grant on LinkedIn, Solgari is where everybody will find me. So I'd recommend just contact me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn, please.
Hey, thanks for listening. Big things are happening here at NZ365 Guy, and we don't want you to miss out on anything. So feel free to subscribe at nz365guy.com. Watch your space, got a lot planned in 2019. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/83. And until next time, bye for now.